Low energy doesn't mean we need to recharge. And low energy is actually information we need to pay attention to because there is most likely a misalignment, not just depletion. We talk about being depleted and not having enough and needing to recover, but we don't talk about the misalignment that might be occurring between the life we're living, the life we want to live, between how we're spending our time and how we actually want to spend our time. So we have to start asking, am I tired? Or is there actually something that's happening in my life that's taking away from where I want to give my energy? We talk about energy like it's something that we can bank, like it's something that we can instantly recharge and hold on to for when we need it. But energy doesn't work like that. And what we've been told is that we need to focus on things like getting enough sleep, eating well, take the weekend to rest and recover, and you'll have enough to get through the next week. And we live in these cycles of thinking that we've just got to plug ourselves in like we do our mobile phones and we'll be able to keep going. Everything will work. It'll be sustainable. The battery runs out, we top it up. But I actually think that's the wrong way of thinking about energy because what we're focused on is depleting, recharging, and our energy, the levels of it, what drains it, what builds it, is telling us something that's far more important that at times we're just overlooking. In fact, we haven't even been told to pay attention to it. And so energy isn't about weekend recovery or evenings on the couch or making sure we go on a holiday annually. It's actually about asking, why is my energy depleting? What's draining it? Why am I so reliant on these quick fixes? And where are the real issues that I need to tune into so that I can learn something about my own energy systems? If we haven't met, I'm Amy, and I am the host of Rethinking Success. This is my podcast where I unpack what it looks like to build a life in a world that is always asking more of us, but in a way that's sustainable so we don't have to choose between work and life. And we can really start to hone in on what makes work, life, and everything in between valuable and meaningful for me. What I'm going to unpack today is the beginning and the introduction of one of the 6 paradoxes that feature in my new book, The Wellness Paradox. Now, a core one is actually around energy. And so that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode and the one that follows. Now, I'm not going to talk to you about how to get more of it. I'm not giving sleep hacks. I'm not giving tips on how to actually eat better so you can feel better. I mean, those things matter. But what I'm actually going to do is get you to think about what is your energy telling you? Because this is the bit we skim or we don't even pay attention to. And it makes sense because we have been told that energy is resource based for us and that there's a supply we need to manage. We manage it through sleep, we manage it through movement, through nutrition, through rest, through taking a day off, a mental health day, a spa day, getting a massage. And these are the things that are going to rebuild our energy. Now, whilst there might be some truth in this, what I want you to know is that these quick fixes have predominantly come out of the wellness industry movement that we have seen over about the last 5 to 10 years. And it's really, really booming at the moment. It's one of the biggest growing industries in the global economy that we have. And what this does is that it focuses on products that we need to consume or absorb or pay for or invest in to build energy. It doesn't actually look at what we call energy suckers or drainers, and it doesn't look at how we can redesign our life to have better and more stable energy to sustain us through the day. Now, these categories, let's think about them again, like sleep, nutrition, movement, rest, whatever they might be. The tips and tricks and the quick fixes are everywhere. We're talking about, how many steps we get in a day. We're talking about things that help us sleep, like sleep masks or nose strips that we're seeing everywhere. Foam rollers if our bodies are sore. We're talking about supplements that can give us energy or reduce energy. I mean, the amount of nootropics or caffeine things out there at the moment that we can take to keep us going, it's just absurd. The idea that there is a quick fix for energy, it's baffling because whilst it might give us a short-term boost to get through the day, it doesn't actually look at the root cause or what might be going on and why we constantly feel we're in a life where we need these quick fixes. So what we're focused on and what we're told to do is optimize, recover, optimize, recover, optimize, recover. And yet we still feel depleted. It doesn't work. It's like putting a band-aid on something and hoping that it will fix, but then we just keep falling over and scraping our knee and we add another band-aid. And the reason is because we haven't slowed down enough to ask why. We haven't asked why this is happening. We haven't asked, why are we living in a world where we constantly feel like we need to be plugging back into something to charge our energy so that we don't fall apart? Why are we hanging on so tightly for the weekend so we can just put our life back together to do another week? It's like we're on this hamster wheel and we don't know how to get off. So there are actually some core reasons for this, and I think some things that we can learn from history and how the working world has been designed that might actually shed some light on what's happened. So, one of the things I want to talk about is this industrial era thinking that has been forced upon us, which actually saw workers as units of energy. Like, we go to work, we do the thing, we recover, we go back, we go to work, we do the thing, we recover. We were essentially about production. We were the fuel for getting things done. And this had to happen at a certain point in time when work was designed on having human labor to be able to complete A, B, C, D, E. It makes sense when you think about it like that. But that's not how our mind and our bodies are designed, and that's not how the working world actually has to be designed anymore. But we kind of took this idea of go, 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 stop, and we still use it. And we even use the same language that we apply to technology for our own energy systems. We talk about running on empty. We talk about needing to recharge. We talk about burning out. We talk about our battery being low. We talk about needing recovery. And so these are the things that we might have used to describe machines, technology, things that function in a way, and we apply them to ourselves because it makes sense. But metaphorically, what we're doing is we're saying we are the same. We can run out, we can recharge, we can run out, we can recharge. And the honest truth is that that's not actually how humans are designed to work consistently. Across seasons, it might look like that, but not day in, day out. We are not mobile phones. We are not things that you can just plug in and recharge. We are not smartwatches, and we are not headphones. We do not just run flat and charge and work at exactly the same level of function again. That's not how our energy is designed. But the language that we use around it tells us that that's the solution. Because if we talk about our battery being flat, then we instantly think, well, let's just recharge. If we talk about running on empty, then the solution is actually to get us back to full. And the quick fixes through the wellness industry tell us we do it through things like a better night's sleep, getting a massage, taking some supplements, or getting a caffeine hit. And that has been signaled into us. But it's not the right signal. You see, energy is a signal system that runs through our body. Low energy doesn't mean we need to recharge and doesn't mean we need to plug back in. Low energy is actually information we need to pay attention to because there is most likely a misalignment, not just depletion. And this is the bit that we don't talk about when it comes to energy. We talk about being depleted and not having enough and needing to recover, but we don't talk about the misalignment that might be occurring between the life we're living, the life we want to live, between how we're feeling and how we want to feel, between how we're spending our time and how we actually want to spend our time. And these things can drain us. These things can take away from us. These things can impact our energy cognitively, mentally, physically. And you can't just plug yourself back in to pick those things up. So we have to start asking, am I tired? Or is there actually something that's happening in my life that's taking away from where I want to give my energy? Am I overworking? Or is the work also not adding meaning to my life? Because sometimes we can be working a lot, but the meaning from it is so great, it doesn't matter. Our batteries feel full. And then there are other times where we might work the same amount of hours or a really long day and feel completely depleted because it doesn't align with how we want to be living or working or feeling or what we want to be doing. So there are multifaceted ways of looking at energy and where it comes from. And we need to tune into what's the difference between being tired after meaningful work and what does it look like when work is meaningless? Because they're not the same thing. We can be tired after doing meaningful work, but if we're doing meaningless work and tired, then that's a challenge around how our energy might be working, functioning, feeling, how stable we might feel. And so our body actually sends us signals through energy when something isn't working, whether it's a values misalignment, whether it's this chronic low grade stress or constant stress that we might be feeling, or whether it's roles that don't fit into us, whether it's having to do a job that relies on skill sets we don't have, whether it's actually spending a lot of time on something and not getting anywhere. These are all of the things that can take our energy as well. And what we do is we go, well, let's just ignore that and have some more caffeine. Let's just actually throw in a little bit of grit, a bit of resilience, a bit of determination, and just suck it up and get on. Or it's not that bad. I'll just make it till Friday and then I'll recover on the weekend. Because that's how we're wired to think energy needs to be rebuilt, instead of actually pausing, stopping it, and reading it and going, why do I feel so tired like this every day? Why am I hanging on for the weekend? What's actually going on to cause this to continually happen? Because when these signals are ignored, we're missing opportunities to pay attention to key information that actually could allow our life to be a little bit better. So, there are different types of things that can drain us, pull our energy battery low, actually get in the way of us feeling like energy is sustainable, and rest can't always fix it. Rest, a weekend getaway, a retreat, a sleep in doesn't always fix the misalignment that's draining our energy battery. So, when we think about energy, it's not just from doing. There are actually some core pieces. So I'm going to talk about three of them. There's cognitive drain, emotional drain, and meaning drain. Now, cognitive drain is, we hear a lot about it, cognitive overload and cognitive fatigue. It's that decision fatigue, it's that constant context switching, jumping from one task to another. It's unclear priorities about where we're supposed to be focusing our attention. It's getting pulled left, right, and center. It's not having time to actually do the task. And so we get 10 minutes into something and then we're pulled somewhere else. We don't know where our focus should go. That is cognitively draining. Yeah. We then can have emotional drain, and this is where we don't actually allow ourselves to sit with the tension or the relationships that are misaligned, or feeling like we're having to perform because we can't be our true selves. And this drains on our emotions, our emotional self, which some people refer to as the soul, the really intricate element of us deep in our core. And so when this happens, we create this inner tension of not being able to speak up, not being able to say exactly what's on our mind, not feeling like we're safe enough to share. And this can happen for a few reasons. We're ignoring that as a sign, and so we don't quite know how to communicate it clearly. We're just putting on a brave face because we're not able to actually articulate what might be going on. We feel like we have to push through because we have a belief system that says it's not that bad, just be grateful for what you've got, and so you want to keep going. And then there's meaning drain. And we might talk about this through the lens of fulfillment or meaning or purpose, but what it actually is, it's work that just, doesn't connect to who you are, doesn't connect to what you care about. Now, sometimes we do have to do things that just aren't great. Sometimes we have to do things we don't like, or, we have to do tasks that we might find a little bit energy sucking because they're just not our jam. But for the most part, we should be engaging things that add meaning to our life. But if we're continually jumping between tasks and we have this cognitive load, we feel like we don't have clarity on priority. We feel like we're being pulled here, there, and everywhere, and we're having to mask our emotions because we can't talk about how we feel. That's going to impact energy that supports us to feel like we're doing meaningful work. And so we get this meaning drain in our body. And what we're told to do is just get a good night's sleep. Just make sure we rest, have an extra cup of coffee, take a weekend off, you'll be fine. Now, these things might help with physical restoration. They might help us feel better a little bit, but they don't actually support the cognitive, the emotional, or the meaning drain that's happening. And so this is why these solutions, or the morning tea in the workplace, or the yoga class, or having the coffee van in once a week, doesn't actually support the sources that are draining us, and we don't realize because we don't stop to tune into the data of what's causing the emotional, the mental, the meaning fatigue, which impacts energy. You can't just plug yourself back in and pick that up. This is about lifestyle redesign. It's about rethinking work and life so that it supports energy, and we don't sit in this mindset of draining, 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 plug back in on the weekend. And so there are some things that we actually need to consider when this happens. When you're feeling like your energy is depleted, you are probably likely to just want to push through. I get that. We know where it comes from. We've been told that's what we've got to do. But there are some things we need to start to consider. Yeah. Instead of trying to manage our energy, we actually might want to start asking, what's this trying to tell me? What's it pointing to? Instead of asking, how do I get more energy? We can start to ask ourselves, what is the low energy protecting me from knowing? What is this low energy not allowing me to see? What am I running away from? Because it's not about just sleeping more. It's not about making sure we eat better. It's not about making sure we move our body, although those things definitely help. It's about recognizing, is there a cognitive, an emotional, or meaning drain that I need to pay attention to as well? And how do I rethink that a little bit differently? Because energy isn't something that we should just have to manage over and over again or feel like we're never doing enough because it is always pulling us down. It's actually something we need to learn to read and we need to learn to pay attention to. And once we start treating this as information rather than just an inventory of do I have enough or do I not, then everything we know about how we can approach our work and our life and our rest and the decisions we make can actually start to shift, because it's not about whether or not I have energy. It's about whether or not the things in my life are allowing me to live in ways that are meaningful, that support my emotional and cognitive state, and that allow me to have energetic sustainability rather than constant depletion. Now, I know that's a different way of thinking about energy, and it's certainly not how we've been raised to think about it. And so, in the next episode, I'm actually going to talk about the energy paradox directly. Why rest isn't the answer we think it is, what's actually missing. And so, if you are curious, make sure you tune into that next episode or go and listen to it now if it's out. But before you do that, here's my last question for you. What is your energy trying to tell you that you haven't stopped to hear? Because once you answer that question, and there might be multiple layers, there might be multiple areas to apply that to, once you start to do that, that's where we can start to better rebuild the energy that's going to sustain us from day to day and not just get us through until the end of the week. As always, lovely people, I would love to hear what you've thought about that idea of thinking about energy in a different way, not just something that we use and then build, but something that is trying to teach us an important lesson or an area of life to tune into. It's certainly a conversation I love to have, and we've just skimmed the surface on this because it really does require some deep reflection about what's going on in work and life and how we spend our time and our relationships and the people we surround ourselves with and what we do with our spare time and all of those different pieces. So, as always, let me know and have a wonderful day, evening, night, whatever time of day it is for you. And I'll see you somewhere soon. Bye.